Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I welcome you all to the lecture number 6 of the course of routing and switching. My name is Engineer Jafar Ali and I am your instructor for this course. So today is our sixth lecture and this is the first part of the sixth lecture. So today's our topic will be routing, but before going into the routing, let's discuss and let's recapitulate what we have studied in the previous class. So in the previous class, as you all know that we have discussed about classless IP addressing and that in IP layer as well. So we discussed the classful IP addressing in the lecture number 4, in which we discussed about the 5 classes: class A, B, C, D, and D. And in the last class, that was lecture 5, we discussed about classless routing, that how you can divide the network into your own choice of networks and users, and that is known as CIDR, classless interdomain routing. And for that we also discussed about the concept of subnetting as well, and I have also provided you the detailed notes on the portal from where you can get more details and practical examples of subnetting and CIDR and this whole concept of classless interdomain routing. So keeping that in mind, the next topic which will follow is that of routing and routers. So before going into the routers, let's discuss about routing, that what is routing, and the devices that that do the operation of routing are basically termed as routers, and we will discuss that in the second part of this lecture. So starting with routing, let's discuss what is routing. So I've already told you in the concept of OSI model and TCP IP model, where we discuss about the network layer or IP layer in TCP IP protocol, that what is routing. So routing is basically forwarding the packets from a network, from one network to another network, or from one host to another destination, or a host to server. So you have to find a route, or you have to find a path. So this finding a path or choosing a path is not an easy job. There are several protocols that we will be discussing in this course as well. There are several topics that are remaining regarding routing, because this is a whole bunch of this is very vast topic, as you know that. And if you haven't watched that 5 minutes video that I have created for you guys, that is the summary of all the our this is the all our this course actually. So if you want to have a overview of this course, actually you have to go through that 5 minute video. And in that 5 minute video, I have tried to summarize all the course, actually, because this course is all about OSI model, and all things that we are doing in this course is basically going around this OSI or TCP model. So I have discussed this OSI model in 5 minutes, and I have touched the major parts in that 5 minutes. So if you haven't watched that video, go to the channel and watch the video, or I've also provided the link in the portal as well, so you can reach the video using that portal of your university. So basically let's discuss one more time that what is routing. So routing is basically you have to find a route or path. Route is same as path, but mostly people call this route because it's to sound more technical as compared to the path. So you have to find a route from a transmitter side, or you can say a transmitter device, to a receiving device. And this finding this route is not one time job. It can be multiple times between the transmitter and the receiver, because there is no fixed path, or you cannot rely on a single path. Because if you rely on a single path, that only a single path will always be there for you to transmit your packet towards the receiver. It may not be the same case as ever, because there are multiple devices that are basically turned off, or they are shut down due to some power failure or any other failure. So you have to reroute your packet, you have to reroute your path actually, so that you can have another path in parallels that will help you to reach your destination in the next time. So it is not one time job, it is a periodic job that the routers do periodically to keep the packet on the server, so that your packet doesn't get lost, because sometimes the packet have are carrying some important or confidential informations that you do not want anyone else to have it. So that is why this is the duty of a router. And you see that there are several jobs that router perform. One of them is periodic, updating their tables and finding the best path towards the receiver. So here comes the property of routing, that it maintains a routing table. Routing makes possible for two or more networks to communicate with each other. You already know that. And routing table only consists of only the best routes for each destination. So let's see what does this mean. So a routing, let's say there are several paths between a transmitter and a receiver. This is your transmitter and this is your receiver. So there may be multiple paths from this transmitter towards this receiver, but maintaining all the paths or keeping record for all these paths is not possible for a routing, for a router to maintain its routing table, because you know that there are hundreds of transmitter at a time and hundreds of receiver at a time that are connected to, let's say, a router that is a gateway router. So it won't be possible to maintain, let's say, each device as having 10 paths. So you see that the router will have to maintain 1,000 records. So it is not physically possible because of the size of the router, the memory stored into the router, the processor installed into the router, that is not capable of handling such kind of huge computational experiments or tasks. So router does not want to maintain all these 10 destination or 10 paths for each device. So what does it do? These are several things that are discussed to be in protocols, but for now keep that in mind, that a router will only save a few paths instead of saving all paths. Let's say there are two paths that are really important and that are really reliable, so router will keep only those two paths in their product table, so that if the packets, if the, let's say there is a user A, among this 100 there is a user A, and there is among this 100 there is a user B. So there are, let's say, 10 paths between A and B. So the router will only maintain two paths, or let's say three paths. This is basically discussed. This will be discussed also in the routing table, that who decides and how it is decided that how many paths should be maintained in the routing table. So let's say the router has decided that you have decided that the router will save only two paths. So router will save only two paths for this communication between A to B. And if one of these is not available at a certain point of time, so the router will reinitiate or reroute the packet towards another path. It will only create, it will not look into the other part. But let's say in the after 10 minutes or after one day, the both paths are fault gets faulted, and the packet is not received by the B. Excuse me. So the router will have to reroute and find the path from A to B second time, and it will again keep two tracks or three tracks from the point A to the point B. So this is not a thing that router will maintain all the possible routes, but it will only maintain the best route or the optimum route. It depends on the routing protocol that you are using. So we will discuss that protocols in the next lecture, inshallah. So there are some types of routing that you need to understand before actually getting into the routing. So there is one type that is known as static routing. The second type is default routing, and the third type is dynamic routing. Mostly people learn about static routing and dynamic routing, and they miss about the default routing. Default routing was also very important, because we will look at into default routing, that why this is so important. Mostly people discuss about static and dynamic, but you should also keep in mind that there is another type that is known as default routing. So what is static routing? So static routing is basically that kind of routing where you manually configure the router, that you have to follow this path or you have to follow this gateway. You take the administration into your own hands manually, and you decide the configuration by yourself, instead of allowing the router to do it automatically. You sit down and you administrate the purpose, this kind of routing. And this is a mandatory need for the destination network. And it is mostly used in some small organization. We will discuss that what are the applications or what are the motivation for this static routing in a bit. In static routing, the administrator decide the best path. The administrator should know that what is the destination ID and how many routes to reach that ID. Again, that thing that the destination, the router should have knowledge about all the paths, and then you will decide, and the administrator will decide that what route should be followed. And the motivation behind static routing is the first thing that comes up in anyone's mind is basically privacy, or you can say security. Let's say administrator have some official documents that he wants to send, but he know that he has traced the route. You can also trace your route by using this command, trace rt. I have already told you in class. You can trace the route, and when the administrator traced the route of his device, he found out that the packet is traveling to the worst destination, but it is passing through a malicious network. Let's say this kind of network is in between the transmitter and the receiver. So the administrator does not want his packet to be passed through this network, because this is malicious network, and it might hack or crack that information. So the administrator does not want to share the information, the confidential information that he's trying to send towards the destination. So what he will do, he will take the administration in its own hand, and he will reroute. Let's say there is another path from this point to this point. So he will take the administration in his own hands. And he will guide the packet that do not go to this path. When you reach this point, this router, let's say this is a router R1, so do not go to the router R2. Instead, you have to, there is another link. Let's say this is directly connected to this path. This is router 3. So you ask your this packet to do not go to follow this path of router R2. Instead, make a direct connection with R3, and that might be a little bit costly, but you want your data to be secure. So that is why you can take the administration into your own hands. And this is mostly done by the administration of a small office. Let's say you are in a building, and this building consists of, let's say, 10 floors, and your office is in 7th floor. Excuse me. So you want your packet to be transmitted at, let's say, 10th floor actually, but you do not want your packet to go from let's say this packet number, this floor number 9. So you want to you take the administration to your own hands, and you reroute the packet from let's say you instead of going in this direction, you go back and use another long path to go towards this destination point. You take a lift, and you take your packet with you in the lift, and you, instead of going with the stairs, you follow the another path that might be long, but your data is in safe hands. The information is delivered to 10 without 9 being involved. So you have ignored 9 completely, and you have rerouted your path, and you have taken the administration into your own hands. So this is kind of routing which you call static routing. This might cost you a little bit more, but this is much secure and much private as compared to dynamic routing, where the router decides all the things automatically. So I've already told you that there is no overhead on the router CPU. What are the advantages? That the overhead of the router CPU is become less, because the router will not have to do your path finding, and you will doing that all things. So the router overhead will be reduced. The bandwidth usage between the routers will be automatically decreased, because you are doing the thing, the path finding, and you are not involving the routers that are involved. Let's say you are the seventh, yeah, this 8 and 9 are routers, this 8 and 9 are routers, so you have ignored them completely and you have followed another path. So you have basically lessened the burden on these routers. So the bandwidth utilization will be none of these routers that are between your destination and yourself, that you are source. It can add more security, because the administrator can choose to allow routing access to certain networks only. So in this case, the packet from 7 has banned uh, the packet to be delivered in 8 and 9, and he has followed some other path that makes the packet go to 10 without 8 and 9 being involved. So please note that in static routing, router don't need any update from about the route, because the router is because the route is predefined by the administrator. So router do not need to reroute the packet again and again. It will deliver the packet to the defined net or user or router that is defined by the administrator. And if that router is gone, is down, router doesn't care, because you will be responsible for that, not the router. If you are allowing the router to do it automatically, then you will held the router responsible. But if you are taking the administration into your own hands, and in future the router has delivered a packet, let's say in this kind of scenario, if you have delivered the packet into a lift, and the lift due to some power failure is not working, so the router will not be responsible. He will deliver your packet to the lift, and if the lift is down or it is not working, so router will not be responsible, and it will not find another path for you. It will just deliver the packet over here, and the job will be done, and this packet will be remained here for some time. And after that, when the TTL is completed, the time to live is completely completed, and the router the packet will be discarded automatically. So this kind of routing is known as static routing. You know that there are several flaws in it, because if the packet, if the router that you have defined is down, so you won't be able to know that your router is down until and unless you do another trace route. So any change in the network has to be updated in all the routers. So you have to be uh, update yourself as well as your routers, so that you know that the packet is reaching the destination without any loss or without any delay. So there are some rules before you actually do the routing. The rules to assign the IP address to the router. So the first rule that needs to be followed is that all the LAN and WAN, that is locally area network and the wide area network, should be in different networks, or should not repeat the same network. You see that you cannot find a route which is involving your own self. For example, if you are in floor number 7, let's take the same example, and you want to go to floor number 10, that is at the top, so you cannot have the same network involved again and again. If the packet is delivered to, let's say, the lift, and lift has come to the floor number 7 or 8, and again it comes to this 7, and from this 7 it comes to this 9, and this 9 to goes to 10. So this is not a feasible path, because you see that this is just a waste of time and energy, because you are involved in the same network again and again. So you should not repeat the same network. This is the first rule, that if a packet is dispatched from one network, it should not come to that network again. The other rule that need to be followed is basically the router Ethernet IP address and the LAN IP address should be in same network. You see that the router and the IP address of the LAN should be in same network. You cannot rely on another router that he will provide your packet to the lift. If you want this, in other words, this device number 7 and the router should be of same network. Take this example as in scenario. Let's say the 7 wants to transmit the packet to 10, but instead of giving the packet to its own lift, this is the lift which carries the packet from 7 to 10, but instead of giving the packet to its own lift, that is the same network, it gives the packet to the lift of another building. So you see that this is the phenomena where you will laugh that the packet will not be able to reach at that point, because you want your packet to be reach at this point, and you have given the packet to the building, to the lift of another building. So the packet will be routing, keep routing here, but it won't be reaching over here. So the Ethernet packet, the router IP, Ethernet IP, and the address IP, the device of the IP address should be of same network, so that your packet should be reaching your proper destination. So these are some rules that you have to follow before actually getting into the routing. The third rule is basically that both of the interfaces of the router facing each other should be in the same network. I have told you that the faces, that the output of the routers should be in same network. So this is not the thing. Let's say you want to transfer your packet. Let's take this example instead of the lift example. Let's do some technical words. Let's say the face of this router is on this side or in that side, and you are delivering your packet at this side. So the interfaces are not compatible to each other, because this router is busy at that direction. So you have to make sure that these interfaces, that this interface and this interface should be facing each other, not in the opposite direction, and all the interfaces of the routers should be in different networks. So it is not possible that you deliver your packet here and this router again deliver the packet towards your side. So it will not, you do not want your interfaces to be on same device, between the same devices again and again. So the faces should be towards each other, but there should not be more than one faces. So if there is another face that is coming towards it, so it's wrong. The another face should be in another direction. There should be one face over here, but the other face should be in other direction towards another network. You see that this is another network, so the other face of this router is this side, the other face should be on this side, but there should be at least one face on this side as well, so that they are compatible to each other. Both the interfaces of the router should be facing each other in the same network. So this is a network. You have to have a one phase that is in the direction of this device, and the other phase should be in any direction that has some other network. So this is another network, so this is another phase. So these are some rules that you need to follow before starting the routing process. These are the conditions that you have to satisfy, and in the coming part, in the part B of this lecture, I will tell you about the configuration and different types of routers. Actually, mostly we use Cisco or TP-Link or this kind of routers that are available in the Pakistani market, but I will tell you about more routers in the international market. The routers that are configured by Huawei or ZTE are most popular in the world. Actually, this the Cisco is basically hitting the top, but after Cisco there are several other manufacturers, or you can say vendors. This is known as vendors. These types of device makers are basically known as vendors. So we will talk about different vendors, that how Cisco has dominated the most of the market, and ZTE is after that, and Huawei, and Ericsson is also a vendor as well. So these are some most popular device making companies, or you can call vendors, that are competing in the market, and they are providing different kinds of router. And if you learn about a basic configuration of router, you might be able to understand the phenomena or science behind all of these routers. But it is not humanly possible to understand all of these things in level of class, or you can say semester, unless and until you have a practical experience of 10 to 12 years working in the industry with same and different routers. You won't be it is very it might be possible, but it is difficult. I'm not saying that it is not possible. It is possible, but it will be very difficult. So I will teach you about the configuration of a basic router, as well as will tell you about some basic fundamentals of Cisco and ZTE. If the time allow me, I will also tell you about the Huawei and Ericsson as well. But the major target is of Cisco, because most of the about there is a common theory, or you can say a hypothesis, that most about 70% of the market is captured by Cisco. So this is not a practical thing. This is basically a hypothesis, but not, if not 70%, I think there will more be 50% of the market share of the Cisco devices. You can Google it by yourself, and I have done my research, and according to the annual report of Cisco manufacturers, the market share was 67% actually in 2019. In last year, this market share was 67%. I have done my research, so you can also do that as well. But most of the cases, there is always 50%, more than 50%. So Cisco is more important as compared to other devices. They have their own customers as well. And if you are trying to get a job, and let's say the company is a client of a ZTE, so your Cisco this knowledge will might help you understanding the basics of ZTE, but you will learn more when you experience it practically by yourself. So in the coming class, I will tell you about the routers. Actually, instead of routing, we have discussed routing in quite a detail, but there are some things that are remain untouched, and these are routing protocols, because it is a vast topic, I have told you. And we will be discussing this different kinds of routing protocols, that how a route is selected between transmitter and the receiver, based on different calculations, based on different parameters, in a separate lecture that will be coming the following week, inshallah. So I will tell you in that class. It will take, I think, 2 or 3 classes actually, to make you understand some basic protocols that are used in nowadays routing, as well as they are also important in your paper point of view. So that's all for the first part. If you have any questions regarding this first part, you are welcome to ask that question in the class. And if you have my email, you can also email me. And the more you ask, the more you learn. I'll see you in the second part of this lecture number 6. See you in the second part. Allah Hafiz.